This video is a part of a free chapter from my new course, The Blendinator. Click the links in the description to learn more. Okay, even though this is my least favorite way to remove markers from the face, we're going to start with this because using 2D masks is the most traditional way to do it. So come to File, New, and then VFX. We're starting with a completely new instance of Blender in this case, so we're going to have to set up our tracking scene again. Now we don't have anything to choose from, so we have to append it. So let's go to File, Append, and then just navigate to one of the blend files that you know has the tracking data already on it. Double click it, and then open up Movie Clip, and then double click our movie clip. Now we can come up here and select it, and it should have all of our data that we've previously tracked on it. We can't see anything here yet because the start frame is currently at 380, so we need to make our start frame 380. And then we also need to put the current frame at 380. There we go. And hover over the timeline here, press 0 to center the timeline cursor. We don't have a frame range yet because both of the start and end frames are at 380. So let's find out where this ends. So I think it is 753 is the last frame, so I'm going to type 753 here. And the next thing I want to do is come to our render properties, down to color management, and make sure we have standard selected here for our standard colors. Now we've used this workspace before. This is the tracking workspace. And if you come to this drop down, you can choose between tracking and mask. However, we're not going to do that because there is a masking workspace. We just click here. Now we have to do the same thing. Make sure we select our footage, and we don't need this, so we'll drag that up. And currently we don't have any masks yet, so there's nothing to choose from. So we click New to make a new mask. And you can title this whatever you want. I'm just going to keep it at mask. And there's two things you notice over here. We have our toolbar for our masking options. And then over here we have a mask tab for the properties for our mask settings and our mask layers. If you don't see the toolbar over here, press T on the keyboard. And then if you don't see the properties over here, just press N. Now we currently don't have any properties because we don't have a mask spline. And a spline is just a curve, basically. Now this video isn't a comprehensive overview of what masks are, but I do want to give you a little bit of introduction to show you how they operate. So to add a mask point, we can press Control and then left click. And if we just click a single point, then a single point will be made. But if we Control click and drag, you can see this handle coming out. And we can keep doing that, either single clicking or clicking and dragging. Now we can either move the point or the handle, which changes the shape of the spline or the curve that we see here. For points that don't have handles, we'll talk about those in just a second. But let's keep going here. So let's select this one and then Control click. And we can just keep doing that. And then to close this, we can come over here to toggle cyclic, which if you hover over it, the shortcut key is Alt-C. And then that will close that. And so what have we done here? Well, we've created a black and white mask that you can't see in this display mode. But if we come up to Mask Display and check Overlay, you can see this is what we see here. Now I can either uncheck Spline so that we can hide the spline, or a better way is if we look at this mask layer, I can just click that to disable it for a second. So it's a black and white mask. Everything in the white area will be visible and everything in the black area will be invisible. So let's turn these back to normal. Now I can click and drag on the points to move them, or the handles. I can click and then shift click to select multiple. I can press A to select all of them. I can double tap A to select none. If I select A, I can also Alt A to deselect everything. I can box select multiple points, or we can circle select, just like we can when editing geometry in the 3D workspace. But remember, if you do a circle select and then you try to select anything else or change anything else, you're not going to be able to unless you cancel out of the selection mode after you're finished. And you can do that by right-clicking. So then you can select things over here in the menus again. So I can select and X to delete, one or multiple, and that's how that would work. Now let's talk about these handles. So these are vector type points, and vectors don't have handles. They're just a straight line from one to the other. So let's say we want to select these and then give them handles. Well, we can do that by coming over to Set Handle Type and then open up this box. If you don't see this box, come up to View and then make sure Adjust Last Operation is checked. And then we can change them from vector to aligned single, which is what the rest of these are. All right, so now they are all the same and we can manipulate the mask this way. But you can see they're pointed inwards, and this means that the direction of the spline is pointed inwards, which is going to affect our feather if you wanted to have a feather. So if we want to select everything and then select Scale Feather and start moving our mouse, this is a little bit wonky. I'm going to right click to cancel that. The shortcut key, if you hover over here, is Alt-S. So let's hover over here, press Alt-S, and then this is a little bit more intuitive if we move our mouse. And now you can see that feather has gone inwards. And if we choose our overlay again, you can see that we don't see any feather at all. And that's just because the feather is going inwards into the white area, so we can't see that. We need to switch that direction to make it go out. So in order to do that, we just click this button, switch direction, and now the feather is going outward. And if we Alt-S to scale that again, you can see we can scale it like that. And over here on our properties, our mask tab, we have our fall off here, which we can change to different feathering fall off types. I'm going to leave it on smooth. Actually, we're not going to be using the feather at all in this. We're going to do the feathering in our compositing instead. So I'm just going to clear that feather weight by selecting this. And then one more thing, if I have everything selected and I Shift D to duplicate that, you can see over here we have holes. If I check holes, then if we overlap, you can see overlapping masks cancel each other out, making these holes. We also have some options down here as far as feather offset, interpolation mode, and then cyclic and fill. We definitely want this to be filled, so everything here looks good. I'm just going to uncheck holes for now. We don't really need that. And then if we have multiple here, and we only want to select one, if I press A, it's going to select every point on the screen. So I'm going to double tap A, and then instead, if I want to select this one, I'll select a point, and then while my mouse is hovered over it, press L, and that will select all of the linked points. So I'm going to do that for this one actually. Press L, and then we'll delete all of those. So let's come back out here, and I'll show you just one more thing here with the handle types. If I press A to select everything, and then the set handle type shortcut key is V, so I'm going to press V over here, and then I can just choose straight away which I want these to be. So auto will do this, and auto has two handles for each point that are kind of counterbalanced. It's like a mirror image. When I move one, the other one is on the direct opposite side of the point. And you can see how that affects the spline or the line between the points. Let's do that again, and then vector is just a straight line between each of the points with no handles. We've seen aligned single, and then aligned, what it's going to do is going to align these the best way to keep the shape that it had. So when we were in vector mode, it's going to try to keep this shape. Of course, it doesn't do all that good of a job, but if we do vector, and then if we do auto, you can see it smooths it out a little bit more because the handles on the auto kind of go along with the spline. Whereas the handles with the aligned kind of go along with the individual points. But the handle types act the same. Okay, and then the last one is free, and that just means each handle can freely move independent of the other handle. So we can move all three of these. Okay, so that is your quick introduction about how masks work. So we're actually going to take all of these and just delete them, because a better way to add a mask, if you would just want a circle, is to come up here to say add and then circle. Now it's added the circle down in the corner because that's where our 2D cursor is. If I shift right click and then shift A to add in our circle again, you can see it adds it wherever the 2D cursor is. I can also add in a square if I want. So that's how you add those. I'm just going to select everything and get rid of those.